All right, Algebra 1, we are about to wrap up our Unit 3 stuff here, so let's get ourselves going. Remember, at any time, you stop and copy your stuff down from this video. All right, we already have all this. We are doing those two. We're going to be using 2 pages on these notes, 35 and 37. We've already got these definitions in. And these are the new definitions, so copy and paste. So coefficients, these are the numbers in front of the variables. Expressions are just things written out like this. Notice there is no equal sign. And terms are what make up the expressions. Notice there are no plus or minus signs in between. All right, just a real quick review of our exponents. So whenever you multiply, you add the exponents together. So x times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. X times y, they're different. So it's just next, you just stick those letters next to each other when they're different. And then over here, you do the numbers. 6 times 4 is 24. And the x squared and x is an x cubed. So just a good review stuff. All right, now we're going to get into absolute value equations here. And this is whenever you have absolute values around a value, they come out as a positive number. So the positive 24 comes out as a positive 24, and the negative 24 inside comes out as a positive 24 as well. And so if we were to make it an equation, see, now I put an x inside the bars. What I'm asking is, hey, what numbers can I plug into this that are going to make it become a positive 24? Well, as we just saw above, a positive 24 could go into the x, and so can a negative. So anytime you see an absolute value equation where x is in the absolute values, you're going to end up with a couple answers. So let's look at some, and that's what this is telling you. So copy these bad boys down. All right. Let's do an example here. So notice how the x is inside the absolute value bars. Now, we cannot just start subtracting 6 on both sides. We have to first get rid of the absolute value bars, and we do that by writing out 2 equations. We do x plus 6 equals 15, and then we do x plus 6 equals negative 15. You always have to make that second one a negative number after the equal sign. Because remember, inside this bar, we're looking what inside of this is going to give you a 15 out of it. And you can have a positive and a negative 15 inside there. So now we do the subtraction of 6 on both sides. And when you do that on the first one, you get x equals 9. And on the second one, x equals negative 21. And if we were to plug those in, you would see this would give us absolute value 15, which does equal 15. And then over here, if we put negative 21 in, that gives us that negative 15. That's why we change that equation, which also comes out as a 15. With the absolute value. All right, so absolute values, you make 2 equations. That's something you've got to know. You've got to keep in your notes because you're going to be seeing it. All right. Our next item is going to go on page 37. And this is, you can solve with the distributive property. So we've already done problems like this, but just a real quick review. You can distribute that 7 in. And then you can see all the steps working down. Subtract by 6. Add 21 to both sides. Then divide by 8. And you get x equals 3. This is nothing new. We've been doing these, but I just wanted you to see them again. Now, this is one where it does get crazy because when we distribute here, we're going to end up with 4x squareds. But look at what happens. And I'm going to highlight it. Both sides of the equation get a 4x squared. So when I do minus 4x squared, it basically just cancels away, which is kind of nice. And that's what we have happening on these big equations. Those x squareds cancel off. And then it just becomes a normal little equation. Subtract 9x on both sides, then divide by negative 15. And you get an ugly answer. It's negative 2 over 15. If you were to make it a decimal, it would be negative 0.133 repeating. We don't need to worry about that. All right, so actually I think it's negative 0.133. Let me check my calculator real quick. 2 divided by 15. Yep, 0.133. All right. Repeating. All right, so let's roll on. Okay, the last little bit now. At this point, guys, we're going to have x squareds, but they're not going to cancel away. So look what happens here. We have to isolate the x just like we would for any regular old equation. We're going to divide both sides by 4 here. And then I get x squared equals 25. Now, whenever you've got this thing set up as x squared equals a number, you have to square root both sides because square roots cancel squares. So the square root and the squared are gone, and you've got x equals. Now look at what happened here. We introduced a plus or minus. You have to put plus or minus on the side without the x squared. And the reason being is both of those numbers will work. If I were to plug positive 5 in, it's going to be squared to a positive 25 at the top. If I put negative 5 in, it's also going to square to a positive 25. So both of those answers actually work. So now when I come to this right one, we have to get the x squared by itself, so we're following our rules. We subtract 2. And we have 2x squared equals 18. We then divide by 2, and you get x squared equals 9. We don't want x squared, we want regular x. So we have to square root both sides, introduce your plus or minus 3. All right, oh, and I totally forgot to change this. I will put your updated assignment into Canvas, and we are going to be doing quiz number 5. Make sure you got that done by Monday at midnight. Make up those missing assignments, guys. Take care. Stay safe.